Welcome in everyone today to a very special episode of American Joyride. I'm joined by Chris Fettes. Obviously, you recognize him. He's been on the show before, one of our most successful episodes we've ever done. He's a former SEAL Team 6 operator and the founder of Be Free Craft Ice Cream. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
There's very few people that get to come back, but as you know, you're welcome on this show literally anytime you want. I'm honored that you take time out of your super busy schedule, setting up your ice cream company to do this, run this back again. But we've got a lot of important things to talk about today. It's going to be a little bit of a different tone than what we did the first time, which was a lot more about your history. It's going to be a lot more about where you're at now. And the pressure that is, let's just dive right into it. We're going to discuss today the pressure that the code of silence that is put on tier one operators and how that impacts them, the trauma that can come from that, and whether or not any of it's appropriate. So I just want to start right from the jump. What do you think about the pressure that is put on you and other tier one operators to not talk, not share your stories, and just sit in silence?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So I've thought about this one a lot, especially as I go through my things in my life and I sort of grow as a person or try my best to evolve and grow as a person. My opinion about the code of silence or any other sort of this perception of this code, right, is that there really is no code, right? So I mean that because it's already laid into policy, right? So when you're an active warrior today in the SEAL teams or any other unit, special forces unit, the code's there. You can't have a social media. We don't advertise the nature of our work. That's not even a code. That's written everywhere. That's a rule, right? So nor should you. So the quiet professional, all these different little concepts of that, they're there, but in my mind, it's a rule, right? And none of the guys that I'm aware of ever really broke that rule, right? Maybe different sort of versions of breaking that rule. I mean, we can go into this later when we talk about some other stuff, but talking about missions or operations and it's for sure like capabilities and things that are need to be secrets, right, are the rule. Okay, so the code of silence thing I don't have the pressure of that because I've moved on from that code. That's the thing. You have to find your new mission, your new purpose in life, and your own code, and that's the thing, right? And then different guys, we're individuals too, right? So when we're there, we're machines, right? But underneath all of that, it's a brotherhood. So the brotherhood is a thing. So that is, and it's just not just, oh, he's my brother, he's, camaraderie. Yes. The brotherhood is this force, right, that exists inside of all of us. And it continues with us, right, through our lives, after, during, for sure. And so every dude that's been through a selection, and not even just through the selection, it's not over after that. You have to be accepted and vetted in some ceremony into your team of small guys, like your small team of guys. They're the gatekeepers, right? Once that happens and that ceremony is complete, you're in the brotherhood, right? And there's different versions of brotherhoods with even non-soft guys, and different war fighters and things like that, and maybe even athletes and stuff. But we have our own warrior version of a brotherhood, and it is a thing, right? It exists. To me, it's a force. It's a spectrum. So there's a dark side of the spectrum, just like us, just like your soul, right? And the light side of the spectrum, and everywhere in between that you sort of go through and try your best to stay balanced in it, right? But my point is that nobody controls that. There's no person, there's no couple of guys or whatever that gets to sort of dictate who's out of that once they're in it, right? And even like guys sitting in jail somewhere for something, or guys thriving with their company or their business or whatever, or their family, are all, it's all still part of them, like wherever they're at, right? They still did this thing, right? They were still there. Okay. So however much anyone tries to control that or go, hey, I'm active duty or I'm out, and I want to cancel this person or do or punish this person or judge this person, is all part of this thing that's wrong right now, in my opinion, right? And there's a solution. So remind me to tell you what the solution is, right? It's hard, but it's so simple, but it's very hard, right? And it correlates to what I think each of us has to sort of realize at some point, or try to realize. The guys that realize it are the ones that they go on rocket ships, right? And whatever definition of success that is, whether they are quiet about things and they live on a farm in Montana and enjoy their family, and that's success, right? Or they write a book, or they tell stories in whatever way that is. It doesn't fucking matter if it's if it's written, if it's they tell them with their voice, if they're books, like whatever. Those, it's just their stories, and each dude that does decide to do that knows why, right? There's a reason, and my opinion is that the way to go about it, right, the right way, and then here's what is missing, right? Here's what the guys that are still there don't understand, vice the guys that are out that hopefully get to learn this or understand in themselves, is that there's no, we're individual. It's an individual thing, right? It's different for each person. So as long as you tie that to your purpose, and it's part of why you're doing what you do in life, it's okay, right? And then the you just try to be as respectful as you can, right? And so my intention, which none of those guys or anyone could understand, or any other dude out here could understand my intention unless they know me, right? But the people close to me that know me, they do know, right? So being respectful, and there's ways to go about doing that. I think that part of the problem too is people or guys or tying like operational security to these things, right? And you're like if you think about it in a simpler level, operational security it doesn't really exist that much for things that have already happened in the past, right? It's to protect that thing, right? Yes, in the future you want to protect the guys that are still, of course we have. Here's the thing, the guys there are, they're sacred warriors, right? We were all sacred warriors at one point or another in the brotherhood, right? And still in the brotherhood in different phases of our lives. So the operational security thing it's a very specific thing that is intended to protect ongoing operations, right? Or very recent operations and things like that, or people involved in things like that. So it's just an excuse, in my opinion, for when guys inside sort of they've got they're individuals, like I said. And so in the team, there's levels of guys, right? Even at the highest, even at like a tier 1 level, there is average guys, which most of us are, and I was actually. And there's rarely these guys come through, then they're legends, right? And we all know that. So everybody else, we know who those guys are. Okay. I'm just using this as an example to explain the best that I can. The guys that are legends, they put all of their bandwidth. They have figured this thing out I'm talking about while they were still in. Okay. They understand that all of their bandwidth goes towards their purpose, which is to operate, right? To be a warrior. And there's no room for any other distraction or any other thing or any time to go think about guys that are done or, like devolve into their addiction so far that it decreases their performance. And those guys have figured they can go out and like have drinks for fun or whatever, but it will not affect them the next day, right? They're there. They're in the zone like the whole time or most of the time. The rest of us average guys have distractions and things that we do, right? That pull us a little bit away from that purpose of being the best operators that we can possibly be, right? And I don't regret that. I'm grateful for everything that's happened, right? But you know, I was an average dude, and I'll admit that, right? And there's these guys. So my point being that it's kind of a waste of time, right? This is just stuff. The judging people, the even guys that are inside that sort of devolve in their performance into their addictions, like a guy becomes an alcoholic or something like that, right? The consequences of that are there already, right? We can move that guy into training, we can shift him into something. My point is that part of the solution is I don't want to ruin some of the next questions, but there's a solution. And you know, the guys that are not the legend type dudes are the ones, really, in my opinion, that are like, oh, that guy's, you know, he's an alcoholic now, he sucks and shitbag, you know. God, that has to stop, right? And I did that. That's why I'm saying this. It's like we jump on that, and the same consequences or results can happen still without that, because then we're wasting our time. We're sucking bandwidth out of the team to go, let's jump on that guy, make him feel even shittier than he already is, and trying to deal with it in his addictions and his things, right? As opposed to, he's still going to go somewhere, but let's be okay with letting him rest and reset and go to the retreat and go to the NICO clinic and go to the program and get better. And then hopefully come back to his purpose as an operator, as opposed to like, he's done. He's out of the brotherhood, right? We can't do that. Like, nobody does that. Like I said, it's a fucking force. You know what I mean? Like, it's still in that guy. Right. So I have a couple of guys I really care about. This ties into the whole veteran suicide thing, the whole, dude, there's no code, right? It's a brotherhood. And then the code it's already ingrained in the policy, in the contract, right? There's a separation. So people out there, the internet and things of people, you know, might not understand when they start judging people for doing things, whatever they are, hopefully respectfully. They're not in anymore. Their purpose now is different, right? Where do we get history from? They're fucking stories from warriors, right? It's Absolutely. Kind of an ironic thing, in my opinion, that we'll go on deployment and we'll be in our little hooches playing video games and stuff, and our little, you know, we'll come back and get together, and I used to call it family movie time. It was like my favorite thing ever. Part of my favorite thing, one of my favorite things, like on deployment with my guys, right? And we throw a movie on, like Band of Brothers or Black Hawk Down or any of those awesome, you know, movies that we love. What are those?
They're telling history. Stories. They're telling history, right?
Yeah. And so it's ironic that now we think we have this ownership of guys and their purpose and their stories afterwards, right? And like I said, not everybody needs to, but the guys that do, I promise you, it's part of why. It's part of their purpose, right? And that they understand, and that people close to them understand. So the guys that are intentionally disrespectful, like, that's that guy. You know what I mean? Like, so deal with that guy. We're not the generalizing. It's happening in our society a little bit. There's just generalizing instead of like this color people or that color people or this religion of people or those, like, it's some of those people. It's just a simple way to solve language sometimes is like, dude, Dave, some of these operators are saying or doing this, takes away some of the generalizing when I just say operators or whatever group of freaking people, you know? So, you know, I digress a little bit, but my point is that's it. It's an acceptance thing of that, right? This is nothing new. People telling stories and doing what they want to do is not anything new, and telling them in different ways. right? This has been going on since man has existed, since there's ever been warriors and war and combat and conflicts through time. It's nothing new. So